Hi, everybody. I am Barb Steinberg. I'm a teen life coach for girls, a parent coach, and a speaker on teen girl issues. Today, we're going to talk about an incredibly important topic that is very near and dear to my heart, which is girls and their bodies, their weight, how they feel about themselves, their relationship with food. I've invited one of my very dear friends and family members, really, who is Austin's #1, always top-rated, top-voted nutritionist of Austin, Texas, and the new author of the new book, Feed Your Soul, Carly Pollack. So Carly, I want you, before we dive into the topic, can you tell us a little bit more about you, your services, your book, so people can know who you are and what you offer?
Sure. I got into this because I myself had over a decade of an extremely obsessive relationship with food, poor body image, and years of eating to comfort myself from anxiety. And we always say, you teach what you most need to learn. And it was at a really young age that I knew for a fact that I wanted to go to school and learn nutrition. Part of me was just fascinated that you could manipulate not only the outside of your body, but that your health, like how your quality of life, how long you lived, whether or not you had disease, that you could control that largely with the food that you put in your body. I was just thought that was so incredible. But also I selfishly chose this path because I was dying to figure out, what is that key to making change. And over the years, I have my master's degree in holistic nutrition. I'm a functional practitioner, a CCN. And 10 years ago, I opened up my private practice, which is called Nutritional Wisdom. We now have 3 coaches on staff. We do one-on-one coaching. There are online courses on carlypollack.com. And this new book, which was a total labor of love because I was pregnant the whole time I wrote it. I am hiding in a corner of a room upstairs because my 10-month-old is sleeping. So that would be a huge problem. The book is really, I was very clear that I wasn't writing a diet book because there's way too many of those out there. And I'm so sick of people being told how to eat for them from people who have never met them before. Yeah. But what I was doing was arming people with the mental tools to achieve anything they wanted for their health and to do it by creating permanent change. I'm not really impressed with weight loss or hormone balance or anything of that nature if it's temporary, because I have lost and gained the same 20 pounds, a million times. Yeah. It's the permanent change that we're all after. It's that authentic desire to wake up day after day and want to do the right things for your body. That's what all of our, collective goal truly is. And that's how I help people achieve their health and happiness goals.
Yeah. And you do an amazing job at it, for sure. And that's because of your knowledge and your wisdom and your training, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk with you today. But another reason, frankly, is because I mainly work with teen girls, tween and teen girls and their families. And you have a personality that I know would resonate with every teen girl out there, because I feel like when I get together with you, my teen girl shows up and we have a ball laughing. So who doesn't want to get some help with somebody that they love and they can laugh with?
And this conversation that we're about to have is so important to me because, one, I suffered, the other day, I was undergraduate nutrition degree, and one of my classes, we had to keep a diary, I guess. It was an English class, and we had to keep a diary and print it out and give it as a project at the end of the semester. And I found it the other day. And I read it and it brought me to tears. It was so sad. It's like I was obsessed with the cellulite on my thighs. I was over exercising. I was punishing myself with food. I was saying the meanest things to myself. And, now I work with young women in the practice all the time, anywhere from pre-puberty to college women. And it's like my heart, I love all my clients, but there's such a special place for me because if I can prevent the suffering
yes,
of one woman, And, I feel like I was the kind of person, I had to learn everything the hard way so that I could teach people how to do it the easy way. Like now I see my dharma in hindsight.
Yeah.
And so for me, just knowing how much I struggled, and that journal, me reading it, like brought me right back to those emotions of the binging and hiding and shame and comparing to the other, of my skinny friends, and all of the kind of disordered eating that I never had a full-blown eating disorder, but I feel like we've all are on the spectrum of, I dabbled, especially in college, of, oh, well, if I only eat a few bites, or if I tried of each meal. I remember that. I remember, trying to do fasts and cleanses, but I just was starving myself like I didn't know. It never lasted because I'm such a foodie. I lasted like 3 hours. I'm like, I'm hungry. But I just remember the level of suffering. So, the general health conversation is so important, but the conversation that we're going to have around young women is just, it's just like the most important thing to me.
Absolutely. You're already starting in on the questions that I have for you, because that's exactly right. That is why I do what I do, because I'm hoping and praying, and with every session I have and every talk that I give, that girls will have, one more day earlier of liking themselves and feeling comfortable in their skin.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's dive in. So what do you think? What are the most prevalent issues that you're seeing in girls, young women, that you're working with when it comes to their food and their body issues?
One is that I feel like they have completely unrealistic expectations, as we all do, of what the body should look like, based on our culture, the magazines, the airbrushing, the Kardashians, all the people that we look up to. And so their goals and what they want, one, are very unrealistic. Two is that, and this is a big thing, they're not educated on what healthy eating is. There's not one nutrition education class growing up, and if there is, it is so outdated of information that it's truly not helpful to these young women. And so when you don't really know how to fuel your body, you're left guessing based on whatever, article in Us Magazine said that this person did to get ready for a film or what have you. So when I sit down with these young women, what they eat when they think they're being healthy,
Yeah.
is just totally off base. And then, the third is that they also have a, a skewed body image, to where it bleeds into that their goals are unrealistic, because then I have a machine at the office called a body composition analysis, and it looks at how many pounds of fat, water, muscle, how much your organs weigh, how much blood is in your body. It breaks down everything in the body to show us by weight and percentage what's going on. And some of these women who have this goal to lose, 20 pounds, or these young girls who feel like they're very overweight, we run the numbers, and it's not in alignment with what the body's actually telling them. And
Yeah.
then there's a few exceptions where I see young women who are very overweight, and it's the opposite side. It's like they're totally disconnected. When I ask them how they feel about their weight, there's really kind of like no feeling at all. They have no concept of really being overweight, and we know that they do. It's just a protective mechanism of having to disconnect because they don't feel vulnerable enough to feel. So I do see the two opposites there.
For sure. Okay, good. Yeah, similar to what I'm seeing for sure in my office as well. So how can girls develop, and these questions are big, I know. I mean, you could write a book on probably every question, but we're going to give the highlights today. So how can girls develop a healthy relationship with food, starting in those tween teen years?
It's important to know that a healthy relationship with food and a healthy relationship to one's body image go hand in hand. They cannot be mutually exclusive. Recognize that no one with excellent body image has an obsessive relationship with food. You have to be unhappy with your body, because then you go, okay, so how do I control this? Oh, let me look at the food.
Yeah.
So the first piece is to understand that they go hand in hand. And, I'm going to sound like a broken record, and it's because when I look at my suffering, when I was younger, I did not know. The sick thing was that I was a nutrition major and I still didn't know, because I do not use one piece of advice that I received in a mainstream undergraduate degree. My master's degree was holistic, and that's really where I started to learn, treating the body as a whole and looking at foods from a different perspective. I mean, I know I'm dating myself, but I still learned the food pyramid when I was in college.
Yeah.
And, we don't know what's right for us. So it's really important for these women to get educated from a holistic standpoint as to what is the right diet for them. What does it mean to eat unprocessed food? And then teaching them how to navigate their reality, because their reality is they go and hang out at the fast food restaurants.
Yeah. Yeah.
You remember, there's nothing to do. You're not going to the bars yet. You're not, and your parents still have to drop you off and pick you up. I remember we would hang out. I grew up in Staten Island. There was a lot of diners.
Yeah.
We would hang out at the diner all night long and eat cheesy fries and French onion soup and just all this crap. And so it's about teaching them, real tools. I'm not going to tell them just to eat a salad wherever they go, but how to make the right choices, create balance in their lives. And it's really important that they learn it from someone that they have really good rapport with. For the parents listening to this, you cannot teach your daughter how to eat healthy, because I see those adult women who struggle with years and of their parents, of feeling like their mother was judging them, of feeling like their mother was trying to fix them or change them, which gives them this feeling of not enoughness, which is something that, we all feel. And I hear the story of, when I was a teenager, my mom tried to, put me on a diet, and she, wouldn't let me eat these things. And I have compassion for the parents, because it's like, I know they're just trying to do the best that they can. I know the underlying story is, I want my daughter to have the best shot at life. And I know how judgmental people are when you're overweight or your skin's a mess or you're not healthy. And so it's coming from a good place, but how your tween and teen take it is that you don't feel like they are enough just as they are. And that's when you need to lean on a professional like myself, who can create really amazing rapport. Not like a nutritionist in their 50s who's going to, feel like they're being punished going to the appointments. But like you said before, the relationship I have with my young kids is like, they can't wait to come. We gossip, we talk about, I get into my inner, 8th grader, and there's so much rapport between the two of us. And then I'm able to teach them, and they're an open channel. And that is so amazing for the parents to be able to step back. And I'm the one riding their butts. I'm the one saying, you need to keep at the thoughts and emotions you are feeling when you jumped into this behavior, so that we can heal it from the root. You can't, as a parent, do that. You got to keep it separate.
Yeah, I always talk about, when you take off the hat of nutritionist as a mom or a dad, and you hand that hat over to the nutritionist, then you get to go back to being supportive parent and having that kind of relationship.
Yeah, you can't do the thing of, oh, are you sure you're going to eat that? Or didn't you and Carly talk about not eating that? I always coach the parents, your job is to be silent, to not say a word. And a lot of the times I'll have meetings separately with the parents to check in, so that if there's something they want to tell me, hey, has Gracie told you that she eats Cliff Bars at night after dinner? That's when they can kind of vent to me and say, I'm not saying any of these things to my child I really want to say. I'm going to say them to you. And I can be this liaison and kind of filter it in without my client, the, young adult, knowing that there's that kind of feeling from the parents of, we don't want to give up control. And so I love that I can have a dual relationship with these families, and be the person that steps in and say the hard stuff, but it's coming from a place of love, and it's coming from a coach. I tell every client, regardless of age, when they come to see me, I'm not your friend. I'm your coach. It's a more sacred relationship than a friendship. A coach is on the sidelines. They see a 360. you can only see what's in front of your face. So it's my job to push you and challenge you, whereas a friend is just going to agree with you. And I want these young, adults to see the sacred relationship that this is, that I can be a friend and confidant, but at the same time, we've got this higher level commitment to each other. And I've seen tweens all the way. They hold a special place in my heart, and it's such a beautiful relationship. Now, I'm not saying that that's the only option for people. Let's say you can't afford a coach, or it's just not in the cards, your kid doesn't want to go, then there are other options. But if this is an option, it's the absolute first step to take.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, there's a reason why there are people like us that feel so passionately about what we do for a living, that we are here to help. And then, as we talked about earlier, it frees up parents to be parents.
Yeah, and and sharing my story absolutely helps, because I've been there. I was one of them. I just remember eating bags and bags of Chex Mix. That was like something I would binge on. I remember in college, I would go to this sub shop, and I would get one of those 12-inch subs, and I would have them cut it into 4 pieces. And over the course of the day, I would eat the whole thing, and a large bag of potato chips. And so, when people are feeling vulnerable, what they want to understand is that there's other people that are like them and that have gone through what they have gone through, and they want that commonality. And when you're a teenager, that's the last thing that you want from your parents, is, that it's really hard to bond in that way.
Yeah, because they're trying to separate, right? So it makes sense to go to somebody outside of your parents to receive help in this area, for sure. So this is a big question as well, but how, if you can, give us whatever you got, how can girls learn to accept their bodies and embrace their bodies' differences?
One of the ways is, so I have to get the name of this website, but I loved this idea. There's this website where you can put in your height and your weight, and what comes up are a bunch of pictures of all these different women, your height, weight, and age, and you see all of these different bodies, and it is so amazing to see, wow, 5'4" at 150 pounds, you can look, there's athletes, and there's people who are overweight, and there's people, and just to see that the body is so different, that's a great tool that I've used before, is, showing them how different we're all set up. And by really understanding that the human body is perfect in the way that every body is imperfect. Like, there is no such thing as having, skin without veins, hair, the random mole, for me, it's almost like the geeky science of the body. Our skin is an organ.
Yeah.
And, understand, this is really about education, understanding what cellulite is. Let's talk about cellulite for a second. There's 2 types of cellulite. There's the type of cellulite where your lymphatic system is not draining appropriately, and it's very shallow looking cellulite, and it tends to be widespread, where it's just like not these deep dimples, but just kind of this like uneasy surface. And in that way, rolling out and drinking more water and getting lymphatic massage and jumping on the trampoline and exercise and eating cleaner, all of these things can help that. But for the majority of the cellulite we have, it's the way that the skin bands connect to the fascia. So the way skin bands usually connect to fascia is like this. And the fascia then connects to the muscle, then connects to the skin. But for whatever reason, because the body is so unique, there are parts where the bands will all connect to one point. And that creates a pulling pressure, which creates a divot at the surface of the skin. I don't care what cream, lotion, cellulite buster thing that you try, unless you had surgery to cut those bands, that cellulite is staying there. And I've had cellulite on my thighs since I'm a little girl. It was cute then. You know, I don't know what age it stops being cute, but my child's rolls and dimply butt. I'm like, her dimply butt's so cute. And then there's like one day you wake up and you go, it's not cute. I don't know what the age, but how many young girls know that that's the case?
Yeah, none.
None. And then they look in the mirror and they look at, their Instagram feeds and feel like they're a hideous monster, which is what I felt like. I just felt like my legs were disgusting. And so, the education of understanding what this is, I think if you're going to let your child be on social media, there should be a negotiation. Hey, if you're going to be on Instagram, I want you to follow these 10 people and let's find some body positive. And I'm not talking about people who are just saying, it's fine if you're overweight, love your body, but like real body people where, Chrissy Teigen is one of them. It's like she'll show, hey, I have cellulite. I remember Heidi Klum talking about, the imperfections of her body. And there's so many people out there. We can certainly get everyone a list. And let's start to fill their feed with people who are really showing health and not just these models that are the exception to the norm that make us all feel bad about ourselves.
Yeah, so folks that are out there that are being more real and authentic about what a real body looks like, the imperfections and all, that you can be beautiful and have cellulite at the same time. Considered beautiful by the majority of the people in the world.
And as the parent, you have to pay attention to what you are saying when you look in the mirror, because they hear everything. And my mother has always been a very thin, naturally thin person. She's probably 110 pounds, dripping wet. And she constantly complained when I was growing up about how she felt fat. She would pinch her stomach fat. Every time she looked in the mirror, she would say something. And I thought to myself, if she thinks she's fat, and I know that I am heavier than her, what does she think about me? And more importantly, what should I think about me? Yeah. And so often we want our kids to eat healthier, but we don't eat healthier. We want our kids to be body positive, but we're not body positive. And it was interesting just the other day. So my mother, long story very short, my mother this year had a heart scare and wound up in the hospital. And there's a pain threshold for all of us to where we hit that threshold and then we're really motivated to act. And so she came to me and said, I have to start taking care of myself. Her diet was coffee mate creamer, potato chips, and, chocolate chips. Like that was mostly what she ate.
Wow.
And so I get her to start taking care of herself, and she's eating avocado and eggs, and, she's starting to eat well. So what happens is naturally she gains a couple of pounds that she always should have had on her body because she was like a stick figure before. But now her size 25 jeans do not fit her. And so she has just been beside herself that she has to get size 26. And so finally I say, Mom, do not go spend a bunch of money. Get the size expander on your jeans. We've all been there. And so yesterday or 2 days ago, I'm sitting with her and she, moves her, we're sitting on the floor with my baby Tilly, and she moves her body and I saw the size expander. I went, oh, you got the size expander. And she goes, she just, and so frustrated. And I felt a lot of compassion for her at that moment, but I also was just so triggered to like all these times in childhood where that was the role model. So I have to say for everyone listening or watching today, if you're wanting so badly for your kid to have a positive body image, the very first place to start before you go to her and shower her with compliments is making sure that you are the example.
Absolutely. So what would you say, what language would you use for, let's say, a teenager who has also gained a few pounds? They're healthy, they're eating relatively healthy, but they're similar to your mom. They've gained a few pounds. They don't like it. Their jeans are now a little tighter. What language would you use to help them learn how to speak differently to themselves?
And it's important to also distinguish the young tweens and teens, the young women and young girls who have a false sense of body image And also, what about the young girls and women that also need to lose weight?
Yeah.
And how do we approach this differently? You know,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, what if they have a couple of pounds on them? Because in the opposite spectrum, I find parents then they're so terrified,
Yeah.
which you know, I like that they're treading lightly, but they're so terrified they don't say anything, do anything, and then their kid is suffering because they're at the age where, you know, they like the opposite sex or same sex, or, you know, we're looking at how do other people view me, we're searching that eternal question, am I enough? And at this age it's all about, do I fit in, does somebody like me? And then we're not saying anything and not getting them the help they need to be the best versions of themselves. So that's a piece of it too. And there's two different camps here. But, you know, acceptance is the very first and most important step to change. So the language I would give them is the same language I use for myself when my body is not, you know, I have a 10-month-old. So after I had my baby, my body was a hot mess. And, you know, it's taken me this full year to get myself back to where I was pre-baby. And so it was just like, I accept where I am right now. And I love my body because it works for me. My legs work, my arms work, my heart is beating. I didn't do anything for this heart. It was given to me. It is a gift. I have gratitude for all of these things in my body that work. I may not love what I see in the mirror right now. That is okay. I'm going to make steps to get to the place where my physical body is a reflection of how much I love and care about myself. I'm not the person that's like, you know, to have someone who doesn't like their body look in the mirror and be like, I'm perfect in every way. It's a friggin' lie.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel good. And you know what? It feels like we're not being listened to, even from ourselves. It's like we're ignoring it. So I'm more like, I accept where I am. I'm going to pick 3 things to have gratitude for my body and thank my body. And then I'm also going to admit that my physical body is not a reflection of where I want to be. And then let's be solution based instead of staying in the problem. I hate my thighs. I hate the first 3 things that I can do to get to a place where I'm closer to my body being something that I feel really proud of.
Yeah. Fantastic. Awesome. So a couple of examples of parents that I've heard is, you know, my daughter only wants to eat junk food. How do I manage that? It drives me crazy. I'm worried. I want her to eat somewhat healthy. And then another kind of pendulum swung on the other side is I've got a kid that's so picky, you know, she'll only eat these 3 things, even as a teenager. How do you advise parents there?
One, I have a lot of empathy for those parents. It's really, really hard when you know, want so badly to get nutrition into your kid's body and they're at the age where you can't just shove it in. I mean, Tilly's 10 months and she'll spit out the salmon, you know, it's like already. You know, I can't get it. Yeah. So one, you know, be gentle on yourselves because it is hard to watch your kid eat a bunch of junk. But let's also cover some bases. One, make sure that you're eating healthy, because just like make sure you're saying good things to yourself in the mirror if you want her to. A lot of the time we're having coffee and skipping breakfast, and then we're grabbing P. Terry's on the way home, and then we can't take it anymore. And then we get on our kids about not eating vegetables. And be careful because they can turn around and go, when was the last time you had a green juice or whatever?
Yeah.
So make sure that you are striving and you are, you know, doing everything you can to fuel your body with healthy foods. The second thing would be to try different stuff constantly. Like if it's not working in the beginning, it is okay to cover it with cheese or to smother the salad in ranch. I'd rather get the nutrition in along with the other stuff that may not be healthy, and then slowly over time, see if you can go, oh, I bought this different dressing at the store. Free cheese that I'm going to try to put on the broccoli, or you start to sprinkle less and less cheese on it, or they dip everything in ketchup in the beginning, but you make sure that it doesn't have high fructose corn syrup or sugar, things of that nature. So start with trying to manipulate it to where you add something that is a little junky that tastes good, and over time. And I have to say it, educate them. It's about, what is good for their body, what's a food, anything that's too rigid breaks. And I think it's important to say that to them. I am okay with you going and having the fries and the burger and the pizza. Sometimes food is to be celebrated in that way. But if you do this and then you also don't do that other stuff, you're going to get sick. And here's the way that you could get sick. Don't just say you're going to get sick, because to a young kid that doesn't resonate with them. But your energy, your skin, try to also find a pain point for them. If they have acne, or if it's really hard for them to wake up in the morning. It's like, what's that thing that they struggle with, and go for that. Hey, if you eat this way, it becomes harder to do this. A lot of the time, the way I get them is because their skin is a mess. And, that's our calling cards. It's like, if you cut out dairy, your skin, if you just do this for 2 weeks, and then they're on board because they don't want to have pimples. Yeah. And, the last thing, if you're listening to this and you're like, I've tried it, then make sure that you've got them on quality supplements. And, a multivitamin that has a mineral, an omega-3 fish oil. I have chewables. I have this, and, I have all sorts of tricks, liquid. Yeah. And just know this too shall pass. Eventually, your kid will get to the age where they will have a more sophisticated palate, and take it with a grain of salt. I'm not saying it's not important. It's incredibly important. But as a kid, I ate so much fast food, and now I'm, one of the healthiest people I know. The body is always regenerating. Your cells are regenerating every, I forget how many days or every month. It's like you have an entirely new body. So do not fear, even though they're not feeling as well as they could. They're not doing the permanent damage that your mind might be in fear about.
I love that. I love that. You're helping them to calm down right now. I can feel it.
Yeah.
So last question. So are there any signs or anything that parents can witness or observe or feel and know, you know what, I think it is time for me to reach out and go to someone like yourself. And I think our family needs a little extra help here.
If you find that your kid is losing weight very quickly and being very secretive or weird around dinner, if you see that your kid all of a sudden decides they want to be vegetarian or vegan, and that's not always meaning that there's an eating disorder on the rise, but it's a red flag. What if they're just meant to be vegetarian and they learn at a very young age and that's part of their path, and that's totally fine. But if it's coupled with other things, being very picky about food, controlling about how they eat, then all of a sudden they decide to be vegetarian or vegan, they're trying different diets, you hear them over, they're talking with their girlfriends about their bodies, you hear anything negative, them leaving the table right after they eat and going to the bathroom. Also, if they're just, and that's obviously mostly for eating disorders, but if they're struggling with their weight, and you start to notice they feel self-conscious and they're wearing shirts when they go into the pool, or they don't want to go to the parties that are pool parties, or you start to notice their personality changing and becoming more shy, and they're pulling at their shirt, and that they're physically uncomfortable in their body, or if they don't feel well and they're constantly getting sick and they have allergies and their skin's a mess and they complain that their stomach hurts or they're constipated. These are all really great triggers for you to say, you know what, let's reach out and get some help, even if it's just a couple of sessions to get that base education.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Thank you. So is there anything else that you want to share that I haven't asked, or you really think that these parents should know?
I think it's really important as parents to also make sure that we are on the path with food, because I'm sure most of the people watching this today are going, ooh, that's also good information for me. I don't feel like I'm doing the best that I could for my body. And I would recommend that you read Feed Your Soul and get some of these tools and tips and get the basic education so that you feel confident that you know how to feed your family. Because if you're questioning, you're going, oh, well, she's saying, make sure that I'm providing healthy foods, but I don't even know it's healthy. Do I buy organic? Do I not? What's the deal with apple cider vinegar? Should my kid be taking probiotics? What supplement should I be on? Is that the path really begins with you, and it will trickle down. So while we'll do anything for our kids, and we may have not taken the time today to listen to a podcast about health for ourselves, my leaving nugget is you have to do it for yourself, because your kids can't do it. It's family pathology. Your kids can't do it without you. So take the time and be selfish, and invest in your own self-care, because they see that mommy exercises or that dad is meditating, and they may rebel against it for a period of time, but I feel as adults, we always go back to what, our parents emulated for us.
Every time I eat a vegetable, I think that, because I was busy in the McDonald's drive-thru along with you in high school.
Yeah. I supersize. I don't know about you.
Yeah. Can you get enough McDonald's fries when you're a teenager? I don't think so.
No, not at
all. Okay, well, thank you so much for your wisdom today. I already know you've helped so many people, and we're gonna, underneath the video, we're gonna have a link to your website, to your book, so people know how to get more of you.
Great. Thank you so much for opening this conversation. The work you do is so important.
I feel lucky to do it. Thanks, Carly. Have a great day. Thanks for listening, everybody.